The Madman!
Welcome to the return of a much anticipated segment reviewing the top cards of Custom Hearthstone. So I'm about a month behind because Boomsday came out, and this feature, the Boomsday, was not released yet, which should be a really interesting look to look back at those cards and then commentate on them based on what we know now. So let's start with Drop the Bombs, which is clearly a card that has suffered from not knowing fully how the Boomsday meta would shape up. 2 mana, target all mech minions at the start of your next turn, destroy any minions placed at targeted positions.
Nuclear launch detected. Nuclear launch detected.
So it would theoretically be good against both mech decks as well as decks with a few mechs in them. But even before the Boomsday came out, I would have been like, oh, this is way too situational, 2 tech cards. There's entirely possible chance that the opponent won't be playing mechs at all. Plus, it is basically delayed Corrupting Mist. It's basically Corrupting Mist, even in the best case, for most of the cases. Plus, it does delay like the opponent playing cards sometimes, but they can just play cards and then like cover up the bombs themselves. It's an interesting design, but it's not going to work like this. Maybe on a different perspective. So design 1 star because there are many decks out there without mechs, and this would not possibly work against them. It's too specific. And then balance 1 star because it's way too weak. Now, an interesting idea is this card didn't even need to say just mech minions. It could just say target all minions. So the question then would be, is Corrupting Mist too powerful? And I still think not. And then it would be perhaps like too similar to Corrupting Mist, and then there's so many board clears for Warrior already. But that card could actually be an interesting card. Proud Father / Firstborn Son. The Proud Father is a 3 mana 2/1, which summons a 1/2 Firstborn Son. The death rattle of the Proud Father is to give Firstborn Sons, presumably, 2/1s. And I say that because there might be some way to like double the battle cry, or have multiple Firstborn Sons on the board, or multiple Proud Fathers or something. Death rattle of Firstborn Son is give Proud Father +1/+2. So 3 mana, summon a total of 3/3 worth of stats, and then on death of one of them, you get another 3 stats onto one of your other cards. Not quite as good as a 3 mana 3/3 that summons a 1/2 or a 2/1 because you don't front load that damage. And I was wondering, would this see play in Odd Rogue? Would it see play in Zoo? I think Zoo's doubling up is stronger than this, and I think it would be a little bit competitive with the other 3 drops, but not that insane. So I think it's in a good spot. For the design of this card, I will give it a 5 star. I actually think it's a pretty interesting concept. I like the idea of family protecting themselves and like getting enraged or something as their other side dies. And for the balance, I give it 5 stars as well. An interesting neutral 3-drop choice, which would be considered. Fish King, neutral legendary. Murloc, 3 mana 3/3 taunt at the end of your turn, add a random deep freeze card to your hand. And it's an interesting mirror on the Lich King. Fish Stick, 2 mana 2/3 death rattle, summon a 1/1 Murloc for every minion killed by this weapon. Fishy Broil, deal 2 damage to an enemy character, or restore a friendly Murloc to full health. Army of the Frozen Isle, 2 mana, remove the top 3 cards of your deck, summon any Murlocs removed. And Bubbles, give your Murlocs +1/+1 and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So my main problem with this card is that it is a snowball card on turn 3, and boy, are those not very well liked. It's like Vicious Fledgling, except immediately giving you a benefit of drawing you a card at worst, and it keeps snowballing after if you don't kill. It's kind of like Manatide Totem, except it's a 3 mana 3/3 instead of a 3 mana 0/3. But wait, you say, it's not like Manatide Totem because half of those cards are only good in a Murloc deck. And that's true. This card is clearly an auto-include in Murloc decks, but I would argue that even in non-Murloc decks, you put this in just because of the snowball potential. Because Fish Stick and Fishy Broil, Fish Stick in particular, are so incredibly powerful that the Fish King is just too good. And also, it feels bad just because half of the cards are good and half the cards are bad. You don't want a card that has so much RNG on it this early. So for the reason, I think the design is highly flawed, but I enjoy the copycat nature of this card against Lich King. So I'm going to give design a 2-star, and I'm going to give balance I'm going to give it a reluctant 2-star. I think it's close to balance, but it feels really, really bad, and it's really, really dangerous because it's a snowball card on 3, where 50% of the time you get a useful card, and 50% of the time you don't, and that is just such horrific design. Next up is a Mage Legendary Duo. For 3 mana, 4/3 Charlock, Burning Detective. Whenever a secret is revealed, add Elementary to your hand, which is 1 mana, discover an elemental. And then Dr. Watson, Assistant, is a 3 mana 2/4. Whenever you discover a card, put a random mage secret into play. So it's brimming with flavor with the Sherlock and Watson reference and the Elementary reference, which is very clever. My main problem with this is that they are both too weak. Charlock is just a 3 mana 4/3, and secrets might not even get revealed. It's pretty tough for that to happen. And Dr. Watson, whenever you discover a card, that's pretty tough. Put a random mage secret into play. So you would probably play this with Primordial Glyph, and that's really about it. And of course they work well together. If you have some elementaries in your hand and then you play Dr. Watson, that works well, but that also doesn't work really well. So yeah, pretty much the main problem with these cards are both that they are too tough to actually pull off, and the benefit is too small for pulling it off. So for the design, I give it 2 stars. I think it's kind of clever, but the conditions are just so tough to do. And then for balance, I give it 3 stars in the sense that they're balanced. Okay, they could see print, but they would never really see play is the problem. So like, it's too weak, but I could presumably see them being printed as bad cards. Next up is a Mage Hero, Majordomo Executus. 9 mana, Battlecry, summon a Flamewaker, Death Rattle, replace our hero with Ragnaros the Firelord, which, as we know, with maximum 8 health, die insect, 2 mana, deal 8 to a random enemy. Majordomo's hero power is Awaken Flames, 2 mana, deal 3 damage, randomly split between all enemies. You would just not play this with Frostlich Jaina because Frostlich Jaina is so much better. It's obviously meant for a control mage deck. So this might be interesting to print anyways, because Jaina would rotate out at some point, and then Majordomo would be around. And the hero power on Ragnaros the Firelord is pretty exciting, and it would be a very exciting showdown. Some people, when they first saw this card, were like, oh my god, OP, OP. But really, when it comes down to it, you're probably not going to be Ragnaros the Firelord for too long. Your opponent will set you down rather low on a turn, and then the next turn they will just kill you and then deal 8 more damage. I'll give it a 5-star on design. I think the balance is pretty close, and I'll give it 4 stars on balance. I think it should get a mana deduction on it. Generous Spirit, 2 mana 1/2, choose 1, gain +1/+1, or give a friendly minion +1/+1. And yes, it looks boring, but there needs to be some amount of boring cards in Hearthstone too, so if it's actually interesting boring or useful boring, then I'd be like, okay, cool. But this one, for pack filler, it's boring and weak. I'm gonna give it a 1 star. And then balance, it's technically balanced, but boy would nobody ever play this. I'm gonna give it a 2 star on balance. And I think an interesting change would make it 1 mana, 1/1. Overclock. 1 mana, deal 1 damage to your mechs and give them +1 attack this turn, with Echo. Pretty interesting. At 3 mana, you could say it's a Bloodlust for your mechs, although your mechs do take 3 damage. And as a reminder, this card was printed before all the Boomsday cards were revealed, so we didn't even see Goblin Bomb revealed. That said, given how the meta's evolved, I don't think this card's a problem at all, even with Goblin Bomb. And that's only okay because Goblin Bomb is nowhere near a thing right now. So, all in all, I think this card would work just fine. There aren't very many decks out there which would be able to use this as a Bloodlust. Mech Hunter is clearly awful at the moment. The main problem with this card is that it's got the Echo keyword, and Echo is clearly being kept to only Witchwood. So therefore, I have to give this a design star value of 1, just because Echo's off the table for a while. I do think the card's really interesting in design though. I feel like there's a lot of flavor to maximizing the damage on your mechs and giving plus attack. Okay, I feel a little bit bad. I'll give it 2 stars. And then the balance on this card, I think 5 stars. A little bit dangerous to have a 1 mana Echo card. Omega Thrall, 5 mana, 6 armor for some reason. I think this was after Dr. Boom had been revealed, so we might have seen the fact that heroes can have different armor, but 6 is really random and only one more than 5, so it's like, why even bother? Battlecry, if you have 10 mana crystals, deal 5 damage to all enemies, playing around the Omega theme. And then you have to wonder, what is an Omega Thrall? We'll get back to that later. The hero power is Canalized Energy. Whenever you overload, summon an elemental with that many stats. So the main point is to occasionally get randomly 2 2s and like 1 1s and maybe 3 3s sometimes. Works badly with Volcano because your elemental gets sucked into the volcano. So this is a really weird hodgepodge of stuff. But the first thing I'm going to start with is, oh boy, this is ridiculous with Shudderwock. Because the Battlecry of deal 5 damage to all enemies, you don't need to run Life Drinker anymore. You can just play an Omega Thrall, and then you play your Shudderwock, and then you play your Shudderwock 6 times, and everything dies. A really powerful effect for your Shudderwock to copy as well. In fact, the effect might be a bit too strong anyways. The hero power is just completely random, and Omega Thrall doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, what is an Omega Thrall? I have no idea what this card is. It's so many different concepts just thrown together. Why is there 6 armor? Said the design, 1 star. The balance is also 1 star. It's ridiculously overpowered. Next up is the Mothership, a 10 mana 5/5 mech. Battlecry, recruit 3 mechs, magnetize them to this minion. And I will again say that this card was designed before we saw the mech, so at that point, if I reviewed it back then, I'd probably be like, I have no idea if any mechs will have charge, probably not. But this card could be overpowered. And now that we've seen all of them, I can say, oh, this card is terrible. Because the mechs don't have charge. At best, you can get Rush. At best, you have Zilliax getting magnetized here. You put like on another big mech, maybe a good mech with Death Rattle. And then you have a really formidable Mothership, which comes into play and rushes and kills something and gives you a bunch of life. But that's the best case. Even in current Recruit Warrior, which does have 4 mechs in it, you do not want to recruit the Mothership, so it just wouldn't fit. 10 mana to play a big card, which can get removed, is just not going to work. So design of the card is pretty interesting. Maybe Dr. Boom was so creative and had like incredible designs and finally built a Mothership of some sort. Maybe you could see that happening. 3 stars. Balance, it's drastically weak. It wouldn't see play at all. 1 star, but you lower the mana cost enough and it could be pretty interesting. Like maybe 8 mana, so you can Dead Man's Hand and play the Mothership on the same turn. I would create a different type of deck. I still don't think that would work. But maybe in a Kangaroos type Paladin. There's a certain type of mana that would make this card work. A Mage Giant, 10 mana, 8/8 Celestial Giant, costs 0 less. Elemental, improved by spell damage twice. The main problem with this is that Unexpected Results clearly was not any good. There's no real good way of cheating out this card. Malygos is probably the best way. You could play Malygos and then double Celestial Giant, but is that any good? I think that's not really good enough to make a deck. So I think the design on this card is fine. Something that gets improved by spell damage twice is an interesting concept. So I'll give the design 4 stars. The balance right now is a 1 star because it just costs too much, but I think with a reduction in mana cost by 2, perhaps it could be pretty interesting. Finally, for the cards from the week of July 28th is Murloc Engineer. 3 mana 1/2 Murloc, Battlecry summon a Murloc Field Engine, which is a 2/2 mech. At the end of your turn, destroy a random Murloc and gain its stats. I think it's an ingenious way to print yet another 3 mana 3/4 vanilla mech while making it more interesting because it's so flavorful. Worth mentioning is that the Murloc Field Engine can eat the opponent's Murlocs as well. Ultimately, this is probably all the time just a different flavor spider tank, but it's a really cool way of building a different flavored spider tank with some anti-Murloc hate while you're at it. So, design, I'll give it 5 stars. And no, I don't really think this will see much play in Murloc decks since you really want your Murlocs to stay around. But interesting enough nonetheless. And balance, 5 stars. The classic 3 mana 3/4 mech is not overpowered. So there's your custom cards of the week. And also, I'm going to be stepping it up and doing 2 a week to catch up.